Hello, my name is Michael Lane. Frequent viewers of public access television in Fairfax may recognize me as one of the frequent guests on either the talk show The Road To or on other shows such as Inside Scoop, and as well as other shows. But today we're going to be talking on this segment of Storyboard about the future of public access television in the United States, or specifically here in Fairfax County. I have with me three guests, frequent users, people who I hope you will recognize as a result of their work here at Fairfax Public Access Television Channel 10. To my immediate left is Leo Terrazio. Leo is a past president, four-year past president of the Fairfax Public Access. He was president of the entire studio back in 1994 through 1998. He currently does a show called Point Taken that you've probably seen him on, as well as this new show, Storyboard, is also Leo's. To Leo's left is Norm Ball. Norm has a long family history in public access television. He's been, his father worked for public television and actually is a two-time Emmy Award winner for doing things for public access in that segment. He's been a frequent guest on Point Taken. You've probably seen him there, as well as the other shows here at the Channel 10. Finally, to my far left is Jim Flynn. Jim similarly is a past president of the Fairfax Public Access Television Channel 10. He started his first show here back in 1991 about single parenting. It was followed up in 2000 or 2001 with a show about local golf ideas and questions about local golf, as well as the host of the Saturday morning political roundtable talk show, The Road To. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. I appreciate your coming to share your views on this.
Thank you.
Norm, Leo, let me start with you. What is public access, and why would we be sitting here talking about it this morning?
Well, public access television started in New York City with Dr. George Stoney, professor at Tisch School at NYU. And it started with his noticing that camcorders had become actually portable, and he felt this was the way for the average citizen to attend meetings held by politicians, etc., find out what is really going on, and put it on the air for everybody to see. The natural extension of that was to become a soapbox, if you will. This is the public soapbox where anybody can come to a studio and record whatever it is they want people in their community to know about. And that is my interpretation of what public access is and should be. It is the ability to become sources of information. Each and every citizen in the county or in the franchise area for that cablecaster should have the right to appear on the public access channel. That is what makes it accessed by the public to the cable system.
Jim Flynn, you've been involved in this for about 18 years. You're a past president of the organization. You've hosted 3 different shows. You've been very involved. What is it that got you started in public access in the first place?
Actually, what got me started was a very narrow need that I saw. I saw single parents get no kind of coverage. The only thing that was on single parents on television was setting themselves on fire or going to war with their mate. There was no kind of information for single parents, and yet almost half the population that becomes a single parent at one time. There was nothing covering a single parent show. So I thought I'd do a show for single parents.
So you were really filling a niche. I mean,
yes.
Nobody in the mainstream media, nobody in cable, nobody any place was doing what you were trying to accomplish with that show.
As far as I know, I had the only regularly scheduled single parent show in the whole country.
And you enjoyed doing it?
I was a single parent myself.
And you found, or at least you thought, that you were not only providing a service, but giving useful information out to people who could really use it.
Single parents have to know a lot of things and they don't know them to begin with.
Norm Ball, what is public access's greatest potential? What is the highest and best use of a public access facility?
Mike, I think that in the current media era, we're losing a lot of our local news sources. We're losing, obviously, newspapers are under siege. The local affiliates and local stations on the commercial side are also suffering audience erosion. And local radio as well, for a number of years, is on the verge of extinction. Therefore, public access may be the last bastion of access to public news.
Why is it, do you think, that other outlets are abandoning their commitment or their obligation to local news?
I think it's one of the byproducts of the whole globalization trend that is obviously occurring worldwide. We have numerous outlets for global and national news, and ironically, as these outlets proliferate, the local news, which I might add, most news is by definition almost local, that the things that affect us the most in our daily lives occur at a local level. And unfortunately, we're losing the venues to reflect that news.
And as we discussed in preparation for this show earlier, it really is frequently local news that more immediately and more importantly touches the lives of people in the community.
Traffic, school closings, washed out bridges, cyclones, these are the things that have a direct impact on our lives. And the great paradox is, as media outlets proliferate, that news is getting short shrift.
And even actions of local government have frequently a more direct impact on the day-to-day life of citizens in the community than does whatever happens in Congress.
Absolutely. That would be my view as well. Yeah.
Except that we're all sitting here for some reason watching these cable news networks that reduce it to the highest common denominator, which is what's everybody interested in? Well, the people outside of Fairfax would not be interested in what's going on in Fairfax County, but everybody has an interest in what's happening nationally or internationally, and so therefore they take it to that highest common denominator.
I would agree with that, yeah.
All right. We're here today really to discuss the future of public access. Things are changing, and there's no doubt that economy is, and not our current economy, but the economics of broadcast and news and things like that are changing the way people get their information. There are a lot more outlets that do a lot of different things, but as people chase the idea of the week or the idea of the day, some things are getting short shrift, and local programming is one of those things that is getting short shrift, as I think Norm mentioned that radio stations have discovered that they can get the larger audiences or the larger profits by doing a syndicated show, nationally syndicated show, versus a local show where they have local production costs and things like that. And so, Leo, if you would tell us a little bit about where does a local access television station such as Channel 10 here in Fairfax get its revenues from, and to where should they be put?
Well, we have public access here in Fairfax County really because of 25 years ago, the supervisor, I think she was chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Audrey Moore, right, insisted that there be a public access section to the franchise, which was given over to Media General Cable. Over the years, part of the franchise fee, which is approximately 5% or more, whatever they negotiate, 1% of that figure was given to the public access station locally, and that would be Fairfax Public Access for us. There was never a constituency amongst the political class, and certainly not by the cable operator. There was no reason that they would want to support something that cost them up to close to $1 million a year at the height of it. Their position has always been, you got some nerve taking our money from us.
When in fact it was a franchise fee that they
Absolutely.
Willingly paid to have access to all the money that they were making.
Right. They maintained to the very end that they never made any money.
Oh, I'm sure.
All you had to do was read the annual reports.
But if you read the annual report.
But they never made it off any individual thing. It was just all the
that
aggregate.
seemed to be the case. Now, Over the years, we were refranchised at the end of the 20-year period, and that went to Cox Cable. I remember having a conversation with the representative of Cox, Carol King, before she went to work for the county in their cable regulatory office. And she said, there's no constituency here, either from politicians or from the cable company anywhere in the United States for public access television. However, in her opinion, the biggest obstacle to public access television was the way public access television ran itself. It was constantly being its own worst enemy. There's some justification for that point of view. Very often the boards of directors around the country turn out to be the same people that turn up on our condo board or a lot of other places where we wonder, why in the world are you doing this? Some have very good intention. Good intention doesn't mean skill. Here in Fairfax, we were kind of fortunate that many of the people on our board of directors, Jim Flynn, I know Paul Porzio, myself, all advocated training for the board of directors, and the training was provided, we were put in touch with Dr. Russ Cargo, a national expert on how to run a nonprofit, how to be a director on a board of directors of a nonprofit organization. And he was recommended to us by Board Source, which is a national organization that helps board of directors.
Leo, excuse me for just a second. We're coming up to our break, which I've got to cut in for. But when we come back, we'll talk about what is the future of public access TV, if it will work, what it could be. But for right now, a brief word from our sponsors, and Storyboard will be right back. Thank you.
Every year, 350,000 people are diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Who will be their caregivers?
I am a caregiver.
Yo soy la que cuida a mi abuelo.
I'm a caregiver.
Call 1-800-437-2423 for a free brochure from Alzheimer's Disease Research on caring for those you care for the most. 1-800-437-2423.
I'm a caregiver. Mom, you really look good. Your heart rate's a little fast.
Cause of death, acute myocardial infarction.
Have you tried a weight loss program?
Likely caused by type 2 diabetes and heart disease.
Still smoking?
Victim's lungs are black and scarred.
You can get a physical exam now, or you can get one later. Talk to your doctor about a physical, learn how to lower your risk for type 2 diabetes and heart disease, and live a healthier life.
It is very important for you to understand that as a citizen, you're the producer of democracy. It's critical for you to understand that places like this are not just for people like me who've taken advantage of it.
Public access TV is wonderful because it allows freedom of people to gather to discuss what really interests them.
You can, if you have something you want to say, use a facility like this, speak to your fellow citizens about these issues. It's the essence of what America must be, not should be, could be, must be, to avoid losing that democracy.
Welcome back to Storyboard. I'm Mike Lane, today's host, and today we're talking about the future of public access television, and I have with me three veterans of public access here in Fairfax, Leo Terrazzo, Norm Ball, and Jim Flynn. Leo, when we went to the break, you were just finishing up talking about the theories of good management for the nonprofits from Dr. Gorda.
Dr. Cargo, right.
Dr. Cargo, excuse me.
I think the most important thing that I want the citizens here in Fairfax County to know about is that in less than 5 years, this station's going off the air. This might not be a catastrophe to some of the viewers. I will tell you, in my opinion, it is a catastrophe, though, for people who believe in the First Amendment and who have something to say. Every station wants more viewers. This is the station that wants more people to come in and use the station to be producers, not because we want you to know all about how to produce good television, but because we believe in the First Amendment, and we're sure that people that live in Fairfax County do so have something to say.
Thank you. Jim Flynn, the issue really is that the current economic model for funding these kinds of stations is probably going to be passé in the next 5 years, and the question becomes, from an administrative point or a financial point, how does Fairfax Public Access operate? But the question I want you to address right now is, does it matter? Is it a good thing or a bad thing, or does it just not matter if public access television survives?
I've got a great answer for you. Does it matter if we've got an economic crisis?
Well, I think it matters to most of our viewers and most Americans.
Does it matter if we've got 2 wars going on?
It matters to most Americans.
Think about how the network news, and it's owned by corporations, covered the wars, covered the economic crisis. Did they cover it after it happened or before it happened? Obviously, after it happened. What in the world is the news if it's not current? It doesn't, in other words, the news you watch is corporate news. If you lose the voice of the people, and literally the voice of the people, you lose a big component of democracy. And we're going to lose that component of democracy unless the people start doing something.
Norm Ball, do you agree with that?
I couldn't agree more, Mike. I think, and if you look across the nation, there's about 20 states so far that have migrated their public access charters to the state level. Now that may sound benign, but in fact that is a death knell of local access. That's slow motion euthanasia. And to echo what Jim had just said, and to get a little Jeffersonian here, who is a natural constituency for local access? It's we the people. We have there's a crisis in this nation at the moment. It's the concentration of media assets in the hands of a very few numbers of corporations. There is no love lost for local access, and if we, from a grassroots level, do not sustain this outlet, we will lose a very important mouthpiece to reflect our feelings to the powers that be.
Let me just interrupt a second to back that point up. Right now, the news goes down. The public access news can go up and go across. This is very important in participatory democracy, not to lose that ability to feedback. If you just have people listening to news that goes down, we're just consumers. We're not citizens anymore.
If I could emphasize that point, Jim, that is where we get the phrase to become sources of information. Turns up in all of the legislative back papers of why are we doing this. It always comes back to allowing citizens to become sources of information in addition to being consumers of information.
See, somebody on the Board of Supervisors back then understood that. I'm not confident that they understand that anymore.
Well, I don't think there is any natural constituency. If you are one of the elite, no good can come of allowing the citizens to talk to each other.
Public access can only harm the powers that be. It provides a soapbox for some contrarian out there to come in and speak ill of the powers that be. Why would you, if you're in a powerful position, why would you want to sustain this soapbox?
Well, only things that are bad for you can come of this. Not only will you be hearing complaints and allow somebody to talk to his neighbors about this, but possibly, and this I think you would really worry about, what if somebody wants my job? He might go to the public access station and start campaigning to become whatever it is I am.
But there's a much more positive spin, too. Fairfax County is 40% people speaking English as a second language. And if there isn't a communications forum for those ethnic groups, many ethnic groups, it's lost. They never get assimilated. They have to get assimilated and stand alone. That's democracy.
And there is quite a bit of that kind of programming that goes on at the station,
Oh,
such as
yes.
Channel 10.
Right, but it's
Absolutely.
only, I think you make a very good point. Yes, we have an entire channel here at Fairfax Public Access that is devoted to all languages other than English, and I think there are now 14 different languages being cablecast because of public access television. Where on the 500-channel universe can I find any of those other locally produced programs speaking to that constituency?
So you might say
no
that-
place.
You might say local access facilitates the traditional melting pot of
Yes,
America.
yes.
I think
Without
very
it,
much
it
so.
helps
Very
to
much
integrate.
so.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, I think you've all made an excellent case for the need to sustain an organization such as public access television. If the issue is that under the current business model, the funding that makes this wonderful kind of programming happen is going to disappear over the next 4 to 5 years, what is the solution? How do we keep public access television alive and going, not only in Fairfax, but in America? I mean, we serve a great purpose.
Well, something's got to be done, and it's got to be done real soon. You've got to influence the Board of Supervisors. That's who we can influence. But you don't rely on them. You've got to also influence Congress. The people have to say, this is such an important part of democracy that we can't do without it. And
A fairly minor expenditure as the big picture goes, isn't it?
Exactly, yes. It's a very minor expenditure. Actually, I would beef up the expenditure quite a bit, but I'm not the president. But hopefully, Mr. Obama or whoever is in that office will, will see the light. Because right now they tend to think of public access as the same as public television, and it's not. It's not at all. Public television fills a niche, but you can only have so many programs on how to cook and how to do your house, and public television doesn't get into, there's very few public television shows that cover local events.
Norm,
Go
go ahead, Leo, go
Let me
ahead.
make a point here, too. It was the county supervisors who told us this station, public access station, must become self-sustaining at the end of this franchise in 4.5 years, and do not look to the county to help you. I think we have to turn that around, and a significant number of people in Fairfax County have got to contact the County Board of Supervisors and say, just a moment, there are priorities, and being a good American is one of our priorities, and one way to be a good American is, I want my soapbox. Don't tell me, don't bother me.
Norm, you mentioned before that one of the problems is that there's not a natural constituency to public access, and how do we build that? What kinds of programming should public access really excel at, and how do they build a natural constituency and build the kind of support where people say, you know what, I'm going to do what Leo said. I'm going to contact my Board of Supervisors because this is important to me.
Well, I think there's a responsibility on the part of public access to provide compelling content such that there's a loyal base of viewers, so that if the plug ever gets pulled or shifted to Richmond in a state charter transition, that there's going to be somebody who's going to pick up the phone. There's going to be a groundswell of citizen complaints. That's one major way to ensure the viability is to provide compelling programming and to build a constituency.
And that would presumably be an expansion of public affairs programming covering the community and the jurisdiction?
And this is strictly maybe a personal view, but local access should be locally driven. It should focus on local news.
Local content.
Absolutely. We don't need to necessarily replicate. There's all sorts of global, national programs, and we know what's going on in the Middle East and the stimulus bill in Congress. There's any number of venues, both on the internet and national television, commercial TV, that provides that information. The dearth of information is at the local level, and that is the unique niche that local access can fill.
And Jim, I assume you would agree that this is the kind of programming that is not likely to exist elsewhere, and it's the only thing that local access can fill?
Well, let me say it a little differently and probably disagree a little bit.
Okay.
You've got to have the local programming. I think everybody should have we live in a technological age now. There's no reason we can't cover the community with the better media. But you also don't get you don't find out the corporate news. The corporate news is intended to give you, what you've been talking about,
Right.
Yeah.
Leo, 10 seconds. You have anything to add to the discussion here?
My concern is that in looking strictly for funding, public access might become business access.
Yes.
If it's business access, then it's another replication of, let's say, here in Fairfax County, Channel 8.
Okay, so it needs to be maintained so the public can actually fulfill the initial concept, which is to have access to the studio and produce things. Thank you, Jim, Norm, and Leo. I appreciate your being here. This is Mike Lane for Storyboard.
Protect yourself from mannequinism. Volunteer. Vote. Stay informed. It's easy to get involved.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Some of these women may have it and not even know it. Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. While not smoking, daily exercise, and a nutritious diet are good for your health, they're critical in the fight against heart disease. Most important, get regular checkups and ask your doctor about risk factors, especially if you're over 40, when the risk of heart disease increases dramatically. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org. It's never too late to protect your heart health. Start now.